Jamie, you're smack in the middle there in Nashville and in Brown County. Have you found that people who normally would have gone to Bloomington or to Columbus are making their way into the middle, or vice versa? People who have told you they would first come down and go to Nashville are then migrating to the two cities on either end of the road?
Yes, I think that's something I've heard really often. People come into Columbus off of 65, and then they stop into Nashville, and then lots of times they go out to Belmont, where TC Steel Historical Site is, and then on to Bloomington. And I agree. I think I wouldn't look at the three towns as competing with each other because we're each so unique in what we have to offer, but I would look at it as complementing one another. And also I'd like to think of it as more of than a one-day stop. It would be a really wonderful weekend trip for families to make. It's an easy destination coming right off of 65, and then it's a beautiful drive. I mean, all the way from Columbus to Nashville to Bloomington is just gorgeous scenery. So I think that we each have something so different to offer the people that come that I would see us as just complementing each other. And I agree with Maya when she said working together is what's going to make the arts communities survive and thrive.
We'll hold those thoughts. We'll get back to you three in just a minute. Right now, we're going to go over to Annie Corrigan in the WFIU studios with her guest. Annie?
Thanks, Stan. I'm sitting here with Sherry Knighton-Schwant. She's the chair of the board of directors of the Lotus Foundation. So good to have you here.
Great to be here, Annie.
So for the 362 days of the year that the Lotus Festival is not taking place, tell me what the foundation does.
Well, as you know, the biggest event that we do have is the festival coming up this weekend, but throughout the year, we have educational programs for communities in this area and outside of Monroe County, particularly the Lotus Blossoms program, which focuses on K through 12. And it has been a very successful program in that we attract about 10,000 people to the festival each year, well, say 7,000 to 8,000, while the Blossoms, we serve about 10,000 kids. So that's pretty extraordinary when we think of bringing artists from all over the world. We plant them within these schools throughout Monroe, Orange County, and some other counties to take advantage of a very different cultural experience. And sometimes these children have never been exposed to an artist like we have. And it's just been a wonderful experience for them. Every year it grows a little bit more. We try to add more schools. We try to make it as inexpensive for the schools as we possibly can, while keeping our costs low as well.
Well, let's talk dollars and cents then. Who pays to get these artists into the schools?
Well, as part of the board of directors, it is the board's role to fundraise for the foundation, and part of that fundraising has to do with Lotus Blossoms. So we're beating the streets and talking to our friends and family about supporting Blossoms, but so obviously that money goes toward bringing the artists in. We ask that the schools pay $300 for an artist to come to their school, and what's been unfortunate with some funding cuts for the last year, if not 2 years, some of those schools that have traditionally been able to host an artist have not been able to afford that $300 because of those extreme cuts. So that has been very unfortunate, and we are always looking at different models of how to present Lotus Blossoms, and we may have to, over time, come up with a new model so that the schools that are getting hurt the most by these budget cuts will not also not be able to have an artist in their school once a year.
And you have an Adopt a School program that helps with that a little bit.
Yes.
We're going to go back to talking about the dollars and cents financial aspect of the Lotus Festival in just a few moments, but Stan, back to you.
Thanks, Annie. I want to address this next question to you, Jamie, and that is, you heard at the beginning that the NEA is finding that more and more people want online offerings for their arts, and you could see in a place like Bloomington, which has IU, or a place like Columbus, which has technology manufacturers like Cummins, it would be logical to think of those places as places you might have in-depth website creation to give people these sorts of offerings, but in a place like Brown County, which seems much more homemade in my mind, my words, not theirs. How do you keep up with trends like that?
Well, the Brown County Art Guild has actually just created a wonderful website. So I think part of it is, doing our best to keep up with those trends while not compromising our, like you said, kind of down-home appeal that is Nashville. I think that we have lots of people working together now in Nashville that are kind of coming together, like the Arts Alliance, and we had an Experience Brown County event this summer, and I think a lot of the promotions are becoming online promotions, as well as the way we beat the streets with our posters and talking with the CVB and all that. But I think that it has to be a combination of staying true to your roots, which is a very homey, welcoming environment in Nashville, but also stretching our comfort zone a bit to also delve into the online world itself.
Maya, we'll start with you on this next one. We'll come back down the panel. Tell me a little bit, just quickly, each of you, how your areas are being helped by your state and local governments in terms of support for the arts. Has it increased, declined, plateaued? We'll start with Bloomington, helped where it comes to promoting the arts and making them flourish?
Well, it's funny that you asked the question. I was actually had a very long phone conversation with Louis Rickey earlier today, who's the executive director of the Arts the Indiana Arts Commission, sort of talking about the future of arts funding and sort of where that's going as it relates to how it impacts local arts organizations. And I think where we're going is a bit of a strategic realignment, in that there are certain areas that will continue to be funded from the state, federal, and local level, and there are going to be some areas that probably go to the wayside, at least for a while. I mean, for example, the State Arts Commission has cut their arts and education grant programs and things like that, but they're continuing to invest in areas like technical assistance. So they're continuing to fund programs or grants or projects where the idea is to build capacity for organizations and artists. In Indiana, to its credit, the Arts Commission is one of the few state arts commissions that still makes individual grant funds available to individual artists. And very few states do that still. And so I think what we're going to be looking at is some very sort of specific areas that will continue to be supported. And there'll be some areas that won't.
Donna, what are you seeing in Columbus as far as state and local government support?
Well, what we're seeing is probably the trend across the nation. We're having to do more with less. But we're also, I've noticed that when you mention technical assistance, we have a regional coordinator, and Jeff Keel, and he works in Region 9, counties that are southeastern Indiana. And we've found ways to utilize every talent that our staff has, and any talent out in the region, to take it and teach it to somebody else, where we would normally have to pay for that sort of technical assistance. The other thing, that we do receive money from IAC, and we grant that money. It's pass-through money. So we try to help our arts organizations locally by raising money independently from us. It's through the United Arts Fund. We raise money, and then we can re-grant and help them out that way. So we've made up some of it, but I agree with Maya. Part of this is just going to, something's going to have to probably fall away.
All right, well, we'll get more back to that in just a minute. We need to go back over to Annie in the WFIU studios, though, right now. Annie?
Thank you, Stan. I'm here with Sherry Knighton-Schwant of the Lotus Foundation. So the Lotus Festival, that's a big thing of what the foundation does. Talk about how much it costs to put on an event like this. It's a 3-day festival of world music and arts.
Yes, as again a member of the board, we have our own goals for raising funds for the festival, and this year our goal was $107,000, and we've exceeded that. But we always have to remind people that the majority of our funding comes from people who are buying tickets for that festival. So that is what's critical for making sure that we can, at the end of the day, be able to pay all the bills for the festival itself. So the ticket sales brings in more than what we can raise. So that's what we're counting on the most. And every year we have been able to meet that goal, with the exception of a few. So we're always counting on people from the Bloomington region, but also outside of that region and out of state, coming to the festival each and every year, and that audience continues to broaden.
Thousands of people come to town for the Lotus
Yes.
Festival. Let's talk about the ticket price. $56 for a festival pass in advance, $66 the day of. As we heard earlier in the program, more and more people are going online to experience the arts. Fewer people are going to live shows. Convince somebody that they should shell out $56 to go to see the Lotus Festival instead of seeing videos of the bands free online.
Well, I can think of a number of reasons why they should go to a festival like Lotus rather than sitting behind their computer and watching a band, simply because of the experience, of the excitement, of the people. It's a block party, and you know, how many block parties can you go to where you're going to be seeing a dozen or so performers for $56 for 3 or 4, 3 nights? And when you start adding up a ticket price for an artist, for one, this is really pittance compared to that. And we realize that for some, it's still an expensive outlay of cash, but that's why we always have free events, and particularly Saturday in the Park. At 3rd Street Park, where you can see a variety of artists, you can experience hands-on artistry and do all kinds of things that sort of are part of that whole cultural experience. It's one thing to just listen and hear a band and maybe see some things. It's another thing to be able to be standing next to them and experiencing a culture that's all their own. And I don't think there's any comparison whatsoever. So it's just the excitement and the buzz and the warmth that you feel being part of such a cultural festival like this.
Sherry Knighton-Schwant, she is the chair of the board of directors for the Lotus Foundation. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Pleasure.
Stan, back to you.
Thanks, Annie.